section 5.5, we are going to talk about real estate taxes. So this is another responsibility that you have once you own a home. You have to pay what are called real estate taxes. And real estate taxes are collected by the city or the county from the homeowners, and this money goes towards things like new roads, parks that you see in a city, schools, and other public services such as police and firemen. So when you own a house, every city, county has different real estate taxes that you're going to be responsible for paying. Okay. Then we have just like a couple of formulas that are going to help us out with the math portion of this. So the market value of your house is the price a house can be bought or sold at. So here is our equation for market value. You are going to take what's called the assessed value and divide it by the rate of assessment. Okay, what do those two things mean? Well, the rate of assessment is the percent of the market value of the property that is taxed. Okay, and we do have a formula for assessed value right here. That is the market value times the rate of the assessment. All right, and the assessed value is the dollar value assigned to a property by a tax assessment for tax purposes. All right, so a lot of new terms here. The tax rate is the percent of the income, sales, or property value collected by taxes. And then a mill rate is a term that some states use to calculate the property tax liability. So a mill is 1/1000th of a dollar. So in property tax terms, that means $1 of taxes for each $1,000 that is assessed. So to find the tax rate as a decimal, we take the mills and we divide it by $1,000. All right, so here's like just a little example for you. A tax rate of 70 mills is a tax rate of $70 per 1,000 of the assessed value. Okay, so if it's 70 mills, we take 70 and divide it by 1,000, which gives you 0.07, which means again, $70 per $1,000 that is assessed. So your property taxes, which is also known as your annual real estate tax, is equal to the tax rate times the assessed values. So you do have a lot of formulas up here, but when you're asked questions throughout the assignment or even throughout these notes, just look at which formula you're supposed to use and you should be able to answer any of the questions that we give you. All right, example 1. The market value of a home of Claire Adams is $312,000. The rate of assessment is 34%. What is the assessed value? So if I come up here, my assessed value formula says I take the market price and I multiply it by the rate of the assessment. Okay, so remember rate is always percentage, so you have to change this to a decimal. Always, always, always have to change those percents to a decimal. So market value times the rate of assessment. Okay, so my market value was $312,000. And then my rate of assessment was 34%, which is the same as 0.34. So that's what I'm going to multiply this by. So my assessed value is $106,080. Okay, and remember what the assessed value means. It means the dollar value assigned to the property by the tax assessor. Okay, so that's what assessed value means. Let's look at another example. The Fulton County tax assessor determined that the market value of Cortland Farm is $340,000. The rate of assessment in Fulton County is 40% of the market value. The tax rate is 50.73 mils. What is the annual real estate tax on Cortland Farm? All right, now before we can find the annual real estate tax, remember, in order to do that, I need the tax rate and I need the assessed value. So I'm going to use my tax rate as a decimal formula, and I'm going to use my assessed value formula. And once I find those two things, I can multiply them together to then find my annual real estate taxes. All right, so first, step one, I'm going to find the assessed value. So my market value is $340,000. And then my rate of assessment is 40%. And remember, that's the same as 0.40. And when I multiply those together, I get 136,000. All right, my tax rate as a decimal formula is the number of mils divided by 1,000. So I had 50.73 mils, and I divide that by 1,000 to find my tax rate as a decimal. And I would just take this out as many decimal places as it is, and I got 0.05073. So then the last thing I have to do is find my annual real estate tax. And like we set up here, I take the tax rate and I multiply it by the assessed value, which are the two things I just found. My tax rate, and I multiply it by my assessed value that I found in step one. And I get my annual real estate tax is going to be $6,899.28. All right, so just make sure you're going back and checking which formula you need to use for each part of this when you're asked each different question. Okay, let's look at another one. Example 3 says the market value is $245,000. The rate of assessment is 50%. The tax rate is 72.35 mils. And what is the annual real estate taxes? All right, so I'm going to have you guys do a little bit of the work on this one. The first one says find the assessed value. So that was the same question that was here for step 1. Now I'd like you to try it for these new numbers. What is the assessed value? The assessed value is $122,500. You took the market value and multiplied it by the assessment rate as a decimal. All right, next, I would like you to find the tax rate as a decimal. And again, use example 2 as a reference. For my tax rate as a decimal, I got 0.07235. All right, and then the very last step would be to find the annual real estate tax. You should have gotten your annual real estate tax to be $8,862.88. And that rounded up from $8,862. Okay, this rounded up to 8.